And good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's edition of the Othor Cain Show. I'm Othor Cain. Glad to have you aboard on this Thursday evening. We are grateful for the opportunity to have you here. We're grateful for your support tonight. We're going to share with you in just a little bit some of our sponsors that are making this show possible. We are appreciative of that. We do not take that for granted. And we're going to share with you some of those sponsors coming up in just a little bit. But I will say to you that I am grateful for Attorney Yemi Kings for sponsoring tonight's broadcast. I want to jump right into a conversation with our special guest. He's in Kane's Corner tonight, and that is Justice Jim Kitchens. We are absolutely excited to have him join us again tonight. You know, prior to our coming on, he asked about the viewership tonight, and I told him that when he was on last week, or the last time that he was on, we had thousands of folk to watch this particular video, and I don't think tonight will be any different. Justice Kitchens, I am glad that you are here. I know you're getting down to the wire and you are making your rounds, so we thank you for taking time out to chat with us tonight. And I don't want to delay this conversation. I want to jump right into it. I am of the opinion and of the mindset that in Mississippi, we cannot afford to lose your expertise. We cannot afford to lose your integrity. We cannot afford to lose your intentionality and your service, because I certainly believe that experience matters. And I want to give you an opportunity tonight to talk a little bit about your experience. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cain, and I really appreciate those kind words, and it's wonderful of you to have me back on your show. I'm very honored to be here. You know, this is not so much about Jim Kitchens as it is about the quality of justice that people are going to receive in the future from our state Supreme Court, particularly during the next 8 years. This is an 8-year term we're talking about. And I have worked mighty hard to preserve and to improve upon the quality of justice that Mississippians get from their highest court in the state. As for my experience, I've been privileged to serve on that court now for almost 16 years. So I know my way around at the Supreme Court. In fact, I know my way around pretty well, better than most, I will say, in the Mississippi court system. I've been in that system since I got out of law school, and I was 24 years old then. Before I was 25, I had been court appointed for indigent or poor defendants on 2 cases that were capital murder cases. Back then, all murder cases had the potential to be capital. And I didn't have much to do as a very young lawyer, so I worked very hard on those cases and prepared them very well. And I won 2 capital murder cases in jury trials before I was 25 years old. So that started me off pretty well. I realized that I had the potential of doing that in other cases and helping other people. Both of those guys were innocent, by the way. They were both self-defense situations. But I started trying cases in the Mississippi courts when I was in my mid-20s. And a few years later, there was an open seat in the district attorney's office where I live. And at that time, the district was Copiah, Lincoln, Pike, and Walthall counties. And the sheriff of Copiah County encouraged me to run for district attorney when there was an open seat. And he and his wife and his deputies and their families helped me to campaign. I didn't know much about campaigning, but they helped me with that, and I was elected district attorney. I didn't have an assistant DA. Back then, county prosecutors were not mandatory, so I had 3 out of 4 of my counties that didn't even have a county prosecuting attorney. So I had it by myself. And if I hadn't been young and vigorous and ready to roll, I don't know if I could have done it, but I did. And I tried, I don't know how many cases as district attorney, all by myself, and I was thought to be a pretty good district attorney. I think I was the youngest one in the state. So after that, after I had been elected in 3 different terms, Mary and I had 5 kids by then. And one of them was stricken with cancer when he was 3 years old. And we prayed and we worked and we did everything in the world we could. Thank God for University Hospital in Jackson, Mississippi, and the great people there at the Blair Batson Hospital. And our son is now practicing law. He's 50 years old. But those were dark and uncertain days for us. And we spent every penny we could scrape up. But the district attorney's salary was pretty meager back then. And with a large family, we just couldn't pay all the medical bills. We had an enormous amount of debt. And I could either take bankruptcy and stay in the DA's office and beat the hospitals and the doctors out of what they were justly due, or I could go back into private law practice where I could make more money and pay those bills. And I did the latter. I went back into practice and I paid every penny. But by doing that, I got a different kind of trial experience. I started trying civil cases in addition to criminal cases. And so I gained a vast amount of experience. Actually, I've been in the private sector more years than I've been in the public sector. After I was in the DA's office, I didn't think I would ever run for anything again, any other office. And I went to practicing law in earnest. And I had a pretty good law practice. I worked hard. I tried a lot of cases. I gained an incredible amount of experience. And then after my boys had gotten out of law school and they were practicing law with me, that was a dream come true. Some attorneys talked me into running for the Supreme Court. And I was flattered and honored that they wanted me to do that. But I did. And I was elected in 2008 to my first term in the Mississippi Supreme Court. Before that happened, I had been in the courts of Mississippi as an active courtroom lawyer for more than 40 years before I asked the people to let me serve on the state's highest court.
Wow. That is remarkable. I wanna unpack parts of your career, but I want to pause quickly because you mentioned your son being stricken with cancer, and I didn't know that, but I do remember you're talking about a project that your wife has been working on, and how proud you are of your wife, and how she has been leading the efforts to get this camp done. I want to give you an opportunity to talk about this camp, and then we'll get back into all of this wealth of experience that you have.
Well, as our little boy was recovering from cancer back then, there was a project that the American Cancer Society, I think, sponsored. It was called Camp Rainbow, and they still do that. But it was a camp for children that had cancer and were being treated or had previously had cancer. And so there are a lot of kids like that in Mississippi, more than you can imagine. And cancer was a very difficult thing now, but more so back then. And so we got interested in camping for children with all kinds of diseases and adults as well who had disabilities of any kind, that they might have a camping facility that was completely accessible to people with all kinds of disabilities and illnesses and infirmities, whether it be sickle cell anemia or muscular dystrophy or cancer or any number of serious illnesses that children and adults have, even people who are mentally challenged, people who are blind, people who are deaf, all kinds of disabilities and infirmities, special needs that people have. And there was not a camping facility in Mississippi available that was handicap accessible. And so Mary Kitchens, my sweet wife, got the idea that she just needed to build the best one in the world. And so she and I went to the bank. We borrowed $600,000 to buy 326 acres of land in beautiful Copiah County on Turkey Creek. And since then, Mary has added another 100 acres to it. And that was the genesis of Camp Kamasa. Kamasa means determination,
Mm,
perseverance,
mm.
not being afraid to go forward if you have some disability or illness. And Camp Kamasa, that's a Choctaw word, by the way. Camp Kamasa is almost finished. This has been a 20-year project. It is a $30 million project,
Wow.
and it's here in Copiah County. And Mary Kitchens is the mother of it. She's the one that thought it up, and she's the one that's made it happen with a lot of help from a lot of good people.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story, and I know it does your heart well to see this camp come into fruition. So, kudos to her. Kudos to you. Please give her our best. I love that story. That's an awesome story. When you mentioned your son tonight, I was like, oh, now I see the connection. I did not know that before. So, thank you
Well,
for
let me
sharing.
tell you, that son is the father of 3 children, and he's a very fine lawyer. God spared his life, and we're just so thankful for that.
Amen, amen, amen. And so, what I also did not know, I did not know that DA. I knew you were a DA. I did not know though that between DA there was no other elected position until Justice Court. I did not know that. So that's very interesting to me.
Not
Um,
justice court,
I
the
mean, I'm
Supreme
sorry,
Court.
District Attorney and the Supreme Court. My apologies. I talked to an attorney earlier today. We talked about Justice Court for a long time tonight, so I apologize for that. But I did not know that there was no other elected position between your time as DA and your becoming a member of the state's highest
Well,
court.
there's been some implication in the advertising for some of my or my principal opponent that I got in the DA's office about the time Joe Biden became a senator, and that I had been in public office all this time, and that's not correct. I spent a lot more time representing Mississippi families in the private sector than I have in public office.
Got it, got it, got it. And all of this time that you spent in private practice, would you say that equipped you for the service that you're providing on the Supreme Court now?
Unquestionably, Mr. Cain, the Supreme Court is like being in a big general practice law firm because we take everything. We get cases from all over the state. We don't have trials there. We don't ever have any witnesses that come to the Supreme Court and testify. We have cases that have already been tried somewhere in Mississippi. We run in districts, but once we are elected and sworn into office, we serve the whole state. I was at the office part of today, and I was working on something that originated down on the coast. And then by the time I left there today, I had worked on something that was up in North Mississippi, up in the around the Tennessee line. So we handle stuff from all over the state, and it's a great variety of cases. Everything that comes through the Mississippi court system can come to the Supreme Court. I might add that the circuit court is our court of general jurisdiction. If you've been summoned to jury service in Mississippi, chances are you went to circuit court. That is a court that we get most of our business from. Between 70 and 80% of our cases come from the circuit courts, and then a large number come from chancery courts and county courts as some agencies like the Workers' Compensation Commission and the Public Service Commission.
Got it. Now, I don't want to put you in a compromising position at all. And so if you cannot answer this, I fully understand and respect that. But I would, though, like to give you an opportunity to compare your experience with your opponent, because it's my understanding that your opponent has never tried a case.
Well, that's my information. I have been told that by people that know her and people that live over in that area. She lives in Neshoba County, and she does have a law office. And Senator Branning seems like she is a good person. I don't know any other thing about her. Don't know much about her at all. However, I'm told that her practice consists of real estate law only. She closes loans for people. And I hasten to say that that is important, honorable work. Somebody needs to close housing loans for people. Somebody needs to represent businesses and development companies when they're dealing with real estate issues. And that's good law practice. And that's something that is absolutely legitimate and honorable to do. But it's not something that lends itself to the work on the Mississippi Supreme Court. I told you that 75 or 80% of our cases come from the circuit court. The judges, people that know Senator Branning, say that she does not go to circuit court, that she does not litigate cases where there are parties that are opposed to each other, adversarial proceedings. So if we didn't have adversarial proceedings and litigation, we wouldn't need a Supreme Court, because nobody would ever need to appeal a case, because nobody would ever lose a case. So Senator Branning's law practice has not prepared her for the work that we do at the Supreme Court. She does not do criminal law. She does not handle large civil cases and litigation before juries in the circuit court. And I don't think she even handles domestic cases, contested divorces, and that kind of thing. I stand to be corrected on all that. I don't know any of this because I just don't know her, but that is the information that seems very reliable that I have heard from, and I didn't seek this information. People would walk up to me and tell me these things as I was campaigning over in Senator Branning's part of the state. So her experience does not lend itself to the work that we do at the Supreme Court. And if she were to get on the Supreme Court, she would never get that knowledge. She would never try a case. You know, I can't go out and try a case in circuit court now because I'm on the court, and she couldn't either. So on the job training is not a good thing at the Supreme Court. Absolutely. But even with on the job training, all she would learn would be the procedures of the court and the system that we have for getting cases through the court. She wouldn't learn anything about what really goes on in the courtroom in a circuit court trial.
Thank you for sharing that. I want to put up Attorney Lisa Ross's comment tonight and let you see what Attorney Ross has said. She says, quote, "I want a justice who has walked in my shoes."
Well, Lisa Ross has some very well-traveled shoes and
well-traveled,
great lawyer. And I didn't know you were going to consult her or cite her, but that's a pretty good source. She's one of the best lawyers I know.
Let me tell you something. I've known Lisa for years and years and years and years and years, and she's a tough lady. And you're right, well-traveled shoes. So we're grateful for her being on tonight and sharing. But Justice Skitches,
as long as we're making comparisons, she is infinitely better qualified for the Supreme Court than my honorable opponent.
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. No doubt about that at all. Justice Skitches, I want to move to an area where I think most people understand that judges are supposed to run nonpartisan races, right? We talked a little bit about this last night on the radio show. Judges are supposed to run nonpartisan races. Tell me, why do you think it is so important for judges to be impartial?
Well, I'm not the only one that thinks that, but I certainly do believe that that is right. Back in the mid-90s, judges had been running in partisan races. Judges ran in primaries, Democratic and Republican primaries back then. And there was a group of people, legislators, who were Republicans, who thought that was a bad idea, and I agreed with them. And they changed the law. They advocated this in the legislature. It was a hotly contested issue, but they prevailed. And Mississippi law, according to the statutes that they passed back then, prohibits judges from running in partisan races. We don't run in primaries anymore. This year, the only election that I've been in was in November, and there were no primaries before that. And so the reason for that is we are supposed to be the most impartial people in Mississippi or in any state. The judges are supposed to be totally neutral. And that effort was designed to try to take politics as much as possible out of the judicial selection process. Now, there's no way to get it completely free of politics, even in places where they appoint judges. Look at the federal system and tell me that the process by which they approve candidates or nominees for the U.S. Supreme Court isn't political. Nobody believes that. It's highly political. But if you are going to elect justices and judges, which is what the people of Mississippi have chosen to do, and there have been efforts to change that in the past, but Mississippi people like electing their officials. And so as long as we're going to do that, we need to try to keep it as free of politics as we can. And the legislature under Republican leadership, with a very good idea, back 30 years ago almost now, changed the law so that we run nonpartisan. Now, when I got on the Supreme Court, when I was running for the Supreme Court, I forsook everything that I had ever believed or had practiced in terms of partisan politics. Back when I ran for DA, everybody ran as a Democrat back then. There were no Republicans back in that era that were running for public office with any success. So that was just the way it was done back then. But then once you get in the judiciary in Mississippi now, you don't have a political party anymore. And I have really been studiously working to avoid that. I have been offered party endorsements, and I appreciate it. I want the party folks to vote for me, but I don't want their endorsement because I want to follow the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And so I don't ever claim any kind of affiliation or allegiance to a party because I don't have that anymore. I'm not a party guy anymore.
Well, Justice, I got to tell you, though, that apparently your opponent thinks differently. Your opponent is touting the fact that she's a constitutional conservative. She is touting the fact that she is glad that the Republican Party has publicly endorsed her. So there within itself are two different views. What do you say to that?
Well, first of all, the Republican Party is entitled to support and endorse anybody they want to. I don't question that, and they certainly have that right. But when it gets down to the candidate, I don't think a candidate has the right to claim affinity, and the statute says this. We can't claim affinity with a political party. And, you know, I respect people that have a different view, but it's kind of hard to argue with the statutory language that the Republican Party itself, in drafting that legislation back 30 years ago, inserted into our law. And I think it is a very good law, a very wise law, and I try my best to obey it and all the laws.
Well, would you say that that action is against the law? Would you say getting an endorsement from a particular party is against the law?
Well, I'm not going to try to promulgate a legal opinion about that. We'll leave that to somebody else. I didn't make a complaint about it because I guess everybody needs to run his own race the way they think best.
You know, I said this to you the other day, and here again, you're proving it tonight. You're so humble, right? You're so humble, and your integrity your integrity level is impeccable, and I think that's one of the things that I most appreciate about you. You serve and you lead with integrity, and I think that that's what we need. So here we are, Thursday, and the runoff election happens Tuesday of next week, right? Next week, it's Thanksgiving, and the runoff elections happens on Tuesday. You believe that we're going to defy the odds, and we're going to have a great turnout on this runoff election, for this runoff election, right?
I think so. I expect that we will. You know, political lore has it that there's always a great turning away, or a great difference between the election itself and a runoff election. That there's a fall off of voters, that people just aren't going to get out and vote. But I don't believe that. I think people realize this is serious business, and people know that this is about the quality of justice they're going to have on their state's highest court. I think people are going to turn out in great numbers, and I trust that some of them will think I'm the guy that they need to vote for.
Absolutely, I trust that as well. And while what I think the Central District, you have 22 counties, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's right.
Right. And so while the Central District is comprised of 22 counties, and I think every single voter in all 22 counties, I think though all of those voters are absolutely important. But I will say this about the county that I live in, which is Hinds County. I will say this about the county that I live in. Hinds County can win this thing for you alone. And the other 21 counties would just be gravy.
Hinds County has the great mass of voters that's needed here. And I just hope and pray that the Hinds County voters, as well as every county in the district, I hope all of them will realize that they need to turn out. I have been blessed in Hinds County. This is the third time I've run there. I have carried Hinds County every time, and I need to carry it a lot bigger this time than I have in previous elections.
I absolutely agree. So we have got to turn the vote out on Tuesday. And honestly, that's what a runoff election really is. It's about who can turn their base out, right? The larger percentage of their base out on election day on Tuesday. And so from my heart to the hearts of everybody that's watching and listening tonight, I would implore you to show up and show out at the polls on Tuesday and cast your vote for Justice Jim Kitchens. I think experience matters. I think leadership matters. And I know that you guys hear me say that all the time. Leadership matters. And I think I know for sure that we cannot afford to go in a different direction. I'm going to give Justice Kitchens an opportunity to make some closing thoughts, because I don't want him to be around and somebody connect him with my commentary that I'm going to make on his opponent. So I'm going to offer him an opportunity to share some closing thoughts, and then we've got a few words about the constitutional conservative opponent. Justice Kitchens.
Well, Mr. Cain, I remember when that conservative word was in great use in Mississippi back in the civil rights era, and to many people back then, it meant that they wanted to conserve Jim Crow segregation, and that's a perversion of that word. It's a perfectly good word. I want to conserve the constitutional rights of people. I want to conserve the Bill of Rights that's in the Mississippi Constitution and in the United States Constitution, because I take an oath to do that, and I just believe it's the right thing to do. You mentioned earlier that the election next week is in Thanksgiving week. A lot of people are traveling then, and they should be going to see their families in other places. But if you're going to be traveling and out of town on Tuesday, please go and vote on Friday. That's tomorrow, and we're talking on Thursday night here. And so on Friday, you can vote from 8 to 5 at your courthouse in any of the 22 counties of the Central Supreme Court District. And then on Saturday morning, you can vote at the courthouse in your county. So that would be from 8 to noon that day. But I hope that people will take this very seriously. I believe they're going to do that. And if it rains, snows, sleets, whatever it may do, I don't think that's going to deter Mississippi voters from taking care of justice on their state Supreme Court. That is of paramount importance to all of us. You don't realize that the Supreme Court's there most of the time, but every time we make a decision about a case that's been tried somewhere in our state, when that decision is made, our precedent is set. The Supreme Court precedent is controlling over all the courts in the state. So what we do matters in every nook and cranny of the state of Mississippi. I urge you to get out and vote. I can't say that enough times. I appreciate this opportunity to come into your homes tonight and talk to you one more time about this very, very important election on the 26th of November, 2024. Thank you so much.
Judge Kitchens, thank you so much. The next time around, you're going to have to play the piano for us, right? You got to practice your skills with us live. I think that would be
I would love to do that for you.
All right, Judge. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us tonight, and all the best. And we're rooting for you. And I can't wait to get back on this broadcast on Tuesday to announce you as that you will be continuing your service as Justice Jim Kitchens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Cain.
All right, good deal. Listen, again, let me just remind you that it is absolutely important. Right? It is absolutely important to go vote on Tuesday. We've got to return Justice Kitchens to the Supreme Court. Hey, number one, he got to get out of his wife's kitchen because he can't cook, right? So he has to go. He has to get out of his wife's kitchen. But you know what he can do? He makes us all proud. He serves the state of Mississippi in a major kind of way, and we don't want to lose that experience. All right, so we got to acknowledge some of our sponsors tonight, and I want to go to our Yimmy King commercial, and then we'll go to our Justice Kitchens commercial as well.
Hi, I'm attorney Yimmy Kings. I've lived and served in Hinds County Subdistrict 2 my entire life. I'm the only candidate from this community, like the late Judge Larita Cooper Stokes, who set the standard for serving our people. I have sat in every seat of the county court. As a prosecutor, I work to keep our community safe by keeping violent and dangerous offenders off our streets. As a public defender, I work to balance the scales of justice. As a civil attorney and advocate for families, I bring unmatched experience and perspective to the bench. My deep connection to this community runs beyond the courtroom. I strive to follow in the footsteps of my great-grandfather, Reverend R.L. T. Smith, and cousin, former DA Robert Schuler Smith, as a true public servant. On November 5th, vote Yimmy Kings for Hinds County Court Judge, someone from the community that lives, works, and serves in the community.
Jennifer Branning puts extremist ideology above Mississippi families. She voted against equal pay for women and denied mothers and babies the health care they need 3 times, even after Governor Tate Reeves supported it. Now, Branning wants a seat on the Mississippi Supreme Court to push her dangerous extreme agenda. Justice Jim Kitchens has spent 16 years fighting for families, fairness, and real justice. Let's stand up for Mississippi women and families. Re-elect Justice Jim Kitchens for Supreme Court.
So thank you to attorney Yimmy Kings for being the sponsor of Kane's Corner, and thank you to the SPLC PAC for providing the sponsorship to help us recognize the importance of keeping Jim Kitchens on the Mississippi Supreme Court. But let me move in a slightly different direction tonight, because I do want to talk about Jennifer Branning for just a few moments tonight, because I am telling you, it's almost hard to grapple with the fact that this lady that's running for the Supreme Court actually voted no for changing the Mississippi flag. She wanted to keep us held hostage by that racist flag. And there you see a picture of her. She voted, like I said, voted against changing the flag. That's her with the red circle around her. She currently serves as a state senator. But she voted no towards changing the Mississippi flag. And we all know the history, the racist history that's connected to that. Do you want that kind of person on the Supreme Court? Do you want that kind of person on the Supreme Court? I told this story before, and I'll say it again. When I was talking about Jennifer Branning a couple of weeks ago, a friend of mine reached out to me via inbox on Facebook and said, Othor, do you not remember I sent you this information 4 years ago on Jennifer Branning? And honestly, when she said that, I did not remember. Backtrack. Prior to her saying that, I had totally forgot that she and I had had that conversation. And so when she reached out and said, do you not remember I sent you this information 4 years ago on Jennifer Branning? I scrolled through my inbox messages, and I'm a pack rat. I'm a hoarder. I don't erase anything. I hang on to everything, right? And this is what she said. She said, I thought you might find this interesting. A bit of history for you. Meet Senator Jennifer B. Branning. That B initial, her maiden name, Barrage. Sound familiar? Olin Lavelle Barrage Sr. was her grandpappy, and that was her word, her grandpappy. He owned the land of the dam where the bodies of Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman were found. And he's quoted as saying, quote, hell, I got a dam that'll hold 100 of them. Do you want someone like that? Do you want someone like that on the Mississippi Supreme Court? Just the lack of integrity. And get this, she's not her grandfather, and I'm not saying that she is, but here's what I can tell you. The apple or the fruit does not fall far from the tree, right? Right there. I think it would be an absolute travesty if we were to allow Jennifer Branning to become a justice on the Mississippi Supreme Court. Jim Kitchens has the experience, he has the intellect, he has the intelligence, he has the character to continue serving. Another thing about this race that made me angry in the general election, and again, this is just Othor Cain. I have no proof of this. I have no proof of this. Excuse me, this is just Othor Cain. Let me say this, and I think she's a nice lady, Ceola James, or whatever her name is. I think she's a nice lady over in Warren County. I think she has served as a judge before, not really sure of what court. I think she could be a very nice lady. I don't know her at all, and I think that, excuse me, 1 second, I've got a little choke. I think it's the democratic process that everybody can run. Whoever wants to run for whatever office, they can do that. And that's okay. That's the prerogative, right? But I think at some point, as African Americans, we have got to consider understanding when collectively it's time to support one person, right? I just think that we've got to begin to consider that. She garnered, if memory serves me correctly, 30-something thousand votes when the election was held on November 5th. I guess what I'm saying to you is, why was she even in the race? I believe if Jim Kitchens had gotten only half of those votes, maybe he needed a little more, but maybe only half of those votes. Had he gotten those votes, we wouldn't even be in a position where he's in a runoff now. I remember the name Ceola James in so many elections, and she never wins, right? I remember her name being on the ballot so many times, and she never wins. And so I began to question why. Why is she always on the ballot in races that she just muddies the water? Listen, it's her prerogative, right? It's her prerogative. It's her It's justice, it's democracy, it's all of that. But I still ask the question, why? You know, someone said that they heard Justice Kitchens on WMPR and that he did an amazing job, just a masterful job of offering a civics lesson, right? Of really educating people about the role of the Mississippi Supreme Court, the importance of the Mississippi Supreme Court. Said that he did a masterful job. And one thing that I didn't do with him tonight, I usually get him to go through all 22 counties because nobody can do a verbal geographical map like Justice Kitchen. He's masterful. He's skillful with that. And so they said to me, Othor, did they record that show on WMPR? Because I want to take that show that Justice Kitchen was on and I want to spread it around. I want everybody to know this. I think we all need the civics lessons. And I said, while that is good, that's fine. And I didn't hear that particular show that he was on, but I said, while that is good, that's fine. And I'm sure it will be extremely helpful. I'm sure it would be extremely helpful because we all need a lesson, a civics lesson, right? We need to get civics back in school. But for me, that wasn't the most important lesson that need to be taught in this space. Not for me. Not for me. That wasn't the most, or still isn't, the most important lesson that need to be taught in this space. For me, what's far more important and a stronger, more impactful lesson that should be taught in this space, for me, that is, all money isn't good money. And as African Americans, we've got to collectively understand when we should not enter into certain spaces. If it isn't broken, why fix it? Don't get me wrong. It's her prerogative. I'm not arguing that, right? It's democracy. I'm not arguing that. But there has to be a reason that she runs all the time. We wouldn't be in this space, in my opinion, had she not been on the ballot. And for what? She never wins. Those 30,000 votes could have gone to Jim. 15,000 of those could have gone to Jim Kitchens. And we wouldn't be in this space. And I think it's shameful. And I think that's the lesson. Let me tell you something. Aaron Henry and all those fine civil rights workers and leaders back in the day, and Aaron Henry particularly, tried to get African Americans in a room and say, listen, sit down. Collectively, let's use our collective power. Get behind one somebody. You're not going to find a perfect candidate, but get behind one somebody who really speaks to your heart and speaks to, your values and speak to, your issues. Let's get behind one. I think that's the lesson. That's a more impactful lesson in this space. I look at the mayor's race for Jackson in 2025. We'll probably have 15 or 20 people running. Why dilute it like that? Why do that? That's what we've got to stop. And those are the kinds of things that we've got to teach. But again, her prerogative, it's democracy. I can't argue that. But things would have been different. I guarantee you. But you can continue making a difference, and you can make a difference on Tuesday by sending Justice Kitchens back to the Supreme Court. Experience matters. Leadership matters. On Tuesday, November 26th, that's Tuesday of next week, I implore you to cast your vote for Justice Jim Kitchens. Send him back to the bench. Let him continue serving us. He has served our community well. He has made us all proud, right? He's made us all proud. He's made us all proud. All right, that's enough of that. I won't continue to beat up on her or anybody else. The elections on Tuesday, very important. Yimmy Kings is also in a runoff election on Tuesday. His race is extremely important. He's running for Hinds County judge, right? He's running for a county judge in Hinds County. He was the second highest vote getter on November 5th, and he's asking for your support again. All right, on Tuesday. So, Yemi, thank you for supporting this show. We certainly do appreciate that. And listen, to all of you that have supported us and given us a donation, we are grateful. You see the Cash App scrolling across your screen, $ Othor Cain. Please don't stop supporting independent media. This show is for us, right? It's for us. And so we need your continued support. So thank you to all. We got a little graphic and started running graphics and putting your names up. You know, I didn't have this. I don't have the script in front of me that my producer provided for me. That's my bad. I'm sorry. And so I can't. I won't even begin to call names. I won't begin to call names tonight. But do know that I thank all of you for your support. The Cash App sign is there. That's how you can donate. Donate to the show. $ Othor Cain. We are grateful, we are appreciative, and we are humbled by your support. Listen, we're gonna cut it short a little bit tonight, but I gotta tell you, coming up next Tuesday, Election Day, right? We've got a special show for you. We're gonna finally hear, and I know that piece aired on WLBT earlier tonight, but we will hear from Clinton police officer Anthony Fox. I am extremely excited about him being able to tell his story with us next week. Hopefully he'll bring my buddy Desmond along with him. I am anxiously awaiting for them to be on this platform and Fox to tell his story, because most of you know that I stood on the opposite side at first until I began to do research for myself. So Anthony Fox is along with us next Tuesday, and I'm incredibly excited about giving him an opportunity to share with us. All right, incredibly excited about that. Listen, thank you so much. We certainly do appreciate all of you tonight. Thank you for being with us. Layla, thank you for being here, ma'am. We certainly do appreciate it. I'll leave you with this one more time. Tuesday, November 26th, Tuesday of next week, you got to go back to the polls. We encourage you to vote, vote, vote. That's our broadcast for this Tuesday. For this Thursday, for all of us here at the Othor Cain Show. Have a good night.
Hi, I'm attorney Yemi Kings. I've lived and served in Hinds County Subdistrict 2 my entire life. I'm the only candidate from this community, like the late Judge Larita Cooper Stokes, who set the standard for serving our people. I have sat in every seat of the county court. As a prosecutor, I work to keep our community safe by keeping violent and dangerous offenders off our streets. As a public defender, I work to balance the scales of justice. As a civil attorney and advocate for families, I bring unmatched experience and perspective to the bench. My deep connection to this community runs beyond the courtroom. I strive to follow in the footsteps of my great-grandfather, Reverend R.L. T. Smith, and cousin, former DA Robert Schuler Smith, as a true public servant. On November 5th, vote Yemi Kings for Hinds County Court Judge, someone from the community that lives, works, and serves in the community.
Jennifer Branning puts extremist ideology above Mississippi families. She voted against equal pay for women and denied mothers and babies the health care they need 3 times, even after Governor Tate Reeves supported it. Now, Branning wants a seat on the Mississippi Supreme Court to push her dangerous extreme agenda. Justice Jim Kitchens has spent 16 years fighting for families, fairness, and real justice. Let's stand up for Mississippi women and families. Re-elect Justice Jim Kitchens for Supreme Court.